Hello Worthington Juniors. This MCA review is all about the equations of circles, how to write them, how to get them from a picture. So first we're going to start with how we even come up with the equation for a radius of a circle. So if we take a circle in the coordinate plane, here's our x and our y axis, we have a circle, we consider its center to be somewhere, some h, some k, some ordered pair, and then a point on the circle is x, y. What we actually find out is the distance from the center to the side of a circle is the radius. We defined that earlier. Now if we want to find the length between them, we would use the distance formula, if you remember that from our distance formula video. So distance formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So we plug in our ideas of x1 versus, x2 versus x1, x minus h. And then our y's, y2 minus y1, y minus k squared. All we're doing is plugging those in. And that equals r. So actually if we square both sides, we find that the radius squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And what's special here is that h and k is where the center of the circle is. And that's actually all there is to the formula for a circle. So let's look at it one more time. The equation of a circle with center HK is defined to be r squared equaling the quantity x minus h squared plus the quantity y minus k squared. That's all there is to it. That's the formula I'm going to be using today in order to write equations for circles. First, let's actually look at some equations of the circle. In these examples, what they want you to do is to identify where is the center of the circle and what would the radius of the circle be. So, if we come up here, here's our formula. If you don't know it yet, let's keep it looking at it. It's generally in the form r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Notice it's always minus h and minus k. And another way to think about it, which I always find the most helpful, is to think of it as the opposite of h and the opposite of k. Remember, our center will be at simply hk, not negative h. We're going to be looking at the opposite of what's in the parentheses. So, let's go back. R squared. This simply says 16. What number squared would give us 16? Well, that would be 4, which means our radius is actually 4. Now, where is the center? The center is at h and k. Well, there is no addition or subtraction going on to these x's and these y's, which means our center is going to simply be at 0, 0. It didn't get moved anywhere. We're starting at the origin, and it's staying at the origin. Now, let's look at the next one. We have r squared. Well, what number squared gives you 10? That one's not so nice. So we know r squared equals 10. So if I want to simply find r, I'm going to have to square root both sides. So r is actually the square root of 10. Not a nice pretty whole number, but the square root of 10. Not 10, but the square root of 10. We need to remember that. So the radius here is the square root of 10. Okay, how about the center? Remember, our center is at h and k, so we have to be thinking the opposite of what's in the parentheses. So this one says negative 5. So the x value of our center is actually at positive 5. And the y value, again, opposite of k, k is actually going to be negative 2. So our center is at positive 5, negative 2. So this one has a radius of root 10 and a center of 5, negative 2. Let's try one more. This one, everything's kind of flipped. But you know what? That's okay. We just have to realize this is x squared and y squared equals, this is going to be our r squared. Okay, let's change it up a bit. Let's find the center first. What number is being added or subtracted to x? The answer is 0. Nothing's going on there. So our center is going to start at 0. The x value is going to be 0, but the y value is actually going to be positive 8. Remember, it's minus k. We got to be thinking opposites. So it's actually going to be at positive 8. Okay, and our r is not 121. R squared equals 121, and therefore the radius is actually the square root of 121, which is 11. So So in this case, we had a radius of 11 and a center at 0, 8. Okay, now that was taking already written for us equations and pulling out the information, deciding where is the center and what is the radius. Let's try the other way around. What if I give you information and ask you to write an equation of a line? Let's see how that would turn out. Someone says write, well, it's supposed to be an equation of a circle. If you've had me in class, you know I have some typos. I apologize. Here we go. This one says circle A needs to have a center at 4, -2, and a radius at 3. Now, if you don't remember, we're going to be using the formula r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Remember, h and k are where your center is. So h is going to be 4 and k is going to be -2 and r is going to be 3. Plug it in. Here we go. We're going to have 3 squared equals the quantity x minus 4 squared plus y minus -2 squared. Now, a couple of small things we can do. Simplify. When you're asked to subtract a negative, what are you really doing? Well, you're adding. And r squared, yep, it's 3 squared, but we can really write it nice. 3 squared is 9, and 9 equals x minus 4 squared plus y plus 2 squared. That is our equation. All right, that one was nice. Let's try another one, a little bit more challenging. This one wants circle B. It's going to pass through the point -2, 6. It's passing through that point. That's not the center. It says its center is at -6, 3. So what information is missing here that we've had before and we don't have now? Well, the answer to that is the radius. So we're going to need to find the radius. Let's start with what we do know. What we do know is the center. So we know our radius squared is going to equal x minus -6. If we subtract a -6, we are really adding. Squared plus y minus 3 squared. Notice we have the opposites in the parentheses. The opposite of -6 is +6. The opposite of +6 is -3. This is our general formula. It's not finished yet. What we have to have before we can call it complete is the actual radius. Well, how are we going to find that? And that's when this other information comes in, this other point. What I'm going to do is plug this in for x and this in for y so that we can find what the radius is. Let's plug that in. We're going to have r squared equals -2 plus 6 squared plus 6 minus 3 squared. So what I've done is plug -2 in for x and 6 in for y. So we have r squared equals +4 squared plus +3 squared. So r squared equals 16 plus 9. R squared equals 25. So r equals, if we square root both sides, r is 5. We now have our other information that we can plug in. We need to plug that in for r. So we're going to plug in 5 for r, and we are going to have 5 squared equals x plus 6 squared plus y minus 3 squared, and that is our equation. Only other thing you could have done is realize 5 squared is 25. And we now have our completed equation. Okay, last one. Can you write an equation of a circle from a picture? What you need to do is decide, where is the center of the circle? Well, by just looking at it, it looks like it's here. How would you know for sure? Check the radius. Check your horizontal and vertical lines and see if the length of the radius is the same. So if I look from the center to this side, this length is 2. 2, 2, and 2. Notice our radius is the same, so I did find a center because it was equidistant. And when you find that equidistant center, that's a good thing because two things happen. I found the center, which I should be able to find the point of, and I found that equidistance, what the distance actually was, which happened to be 2. So the length from here to the side was 2, so I already know that the radius is 2. I'm taking the picture and finding the information. And if we start at our origin, if I go right 1 and down 2, that's the actual point 1, -2. to go right 1 and down 2. That's the center of the circle. So by just looking at our picture, I should be able to identify where is the center and what is its radius. Once I have found that information, I get to just plug it into that same formula again. I'm going to take r squared and set it equal to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. Again, we have that subtracting the negative, or the same idea that we should have opposites. If this is positive 1, I should see negative 1. If this is negative 2, I should see a positive 2 because I'm subtracting that number. So what the formula reduces to is 4 equals x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared. And that's the equation of a circle. And that's it. That's all you need to know. And that's how we plug in numbers into our equation of a circle. That's how we get the numbers out of a picture, or how we got them out of the equation in the first place. So hopefully you'll be ready to go for your MCAs if you have any questions on the radius of a circle.